Hello, gorgeous Aries, and welcome to July 2020. Oh, I haven't done my wink yet. um, yeah, July is a really powerful month. In many ways, there's kind of this review process going on. There's a really interesting duality between feeling as though we are returning to some lessons that we were learning earlier in this year and maybe even last year, and at the same time, like we are still somewhere new, we're somewhere different, and that it isn't quite the same game that it's always been. There's some really deep healing and learning and communing going on in July that is quite powerful and quite intense. So let's just go through some of the themes and then we're going to talk about the message that comes through for you, my beautiful Aries. The cardinal signs are really getting huge hits of energy this month, and they're really the ones that are on display. So being Aries and the fire cardinal sign, you're going to be feeling a lot of these activations and a lot of these shifts. The month starts off July 1st. The Saturn retrogrades back into Capricorn. So we're revisiting the lessons we've been learning with Saturn and Capricorn for the last couple of years. We're coming back for just about 5 or so months to this energy. And that's where that sense of like, oh my gosh, maybe like I haven't moved forward could come up. However, we're in very different territory right here too. We also have a full moon in Capricorn and a partial lunar eclipse happening on July 5th. So another return to lessons from the past. This is kind of one of the last eclipses we're going to see in Capricorn for a long time. And it's that review of south node of the moon in Capricorn. So that part of the equation and that fourth, and this is 10th house energy for you all. So who you are in the world, who you want to be in the world is kind of getting a hit again of like review. Another big thing that's happening this month, July 11th, Chiron, who is moving through your sign, is going to go retrograde. Now, I think this is a really great retrograde. It helps us heal and incorporate it and understand who we are becoming and how we can empower ourselves. He's going to be retrograde until December. We also have Mercury going direct in Cancer in your fourth house, right? And a new moon in Cancer on July 20th, also in your fourth house of what supports you deep down in the hidden, in the unseen, in the parts of Aries that people don't see when they're moving through their day-to-day lives, right? And then as we move through all of that Cancerian energy, because Cancer season is very much a very intimate space for Aries, we move into Leo season on July 22nd. And the brightness of a fellow fire sign coming into the mix is going to be really empowering, really clarifying, a lot more energizing for you all. So you may find that you're going through kind of a process from the beginning of July until the end of July, going from some heavier hitting energy into some more playful, creative, fun energy. Leo season for you is going to be all about opening up your heart and your creativity and feeling reconnected with that. Now, the message that came through with all of that in mind, the message that came through is that this is a beautiful time for the sun, love it, kind of getting in touch with who you are now. It's kind of like you've gone through so much change, right, in the last 6 months. Knight of Swords. You've gone through so much change, and even as we're kind of tapping back into Saturn and Capricorn, and we're tapping into these eclipses, it's like, oh yeah, here's who I've been during these other years. 3 of Swords. Don't worry, that's some very Chiron retrograde stuff going on there. We'll talk about that. 10 of Pentacles, love it. But it's when you grow and change a lot, it's kind of like you have to get used to who you are, and you can kind of sometimes feel disassociated from the new world that you're in. Like even if you're having a lot of really beautiful things happening or a lot of revolution happening in your life, and it's invigorating parts of your life, and it could be, some of it could be positive, some of it could be overwhelming. You can feel a little bit like you have to disassociate from who you've become. 9 of Wands. Another Chiron retrograde energy going on there. The Star, I love it. And this month is helping you to kind of catch up with yourself, right? 5 of Pentacles. Oh, Aries, you guys are always so rough on yourselves. There's always some self-torture going on with you all. I love you to bits and pieces, but you definitely push yourselves hard emotionally and in life in general, but this is a beautiful time to catch up with yourself, to like your physical self your quite literal practical day-to-day self with your soul self and how much that has grown. These two can sometimes work on very different frequencies for a while when we've been really busy or we've gone through massive amounts of change. And it does take some time to feel like they're kind of coming back into dialogue. And that's where I think Chiron retrograde is really helpful. I think the first 12 days of July with Mercury retrograde in Cancer is really helpful. I think with the last eclipse that we're going to have in Capricorn and the new moon in Cancer, these are all energies that take us deeper into the mystery rather than into the certainty, right? And especially for cardinal signs. And that's having us just catch up with ourselves so that when we get to Leo season, you feel the creative burst, you feel the creative energy, you feel that loving childlike impulse for joy and excitement. And yes, you have some complicated energy here, but I don't think it's actually as complex as we sometimes want to make it. You know, you look at these cards, you might think, oh no, July is going to be the worst month ever. And I actually don't think that at all. The sun came straight out to say, the road that we are on here, Aries, is to feel this level of liberation. Now, one of the big themes here this month that came up for me as I felt through July as a whole for all of us, this is going to be a time where power and control and authoritarianism feels as though it's like really in our faces. And one of the things we're being asked to heal here is to tap into like the mother and the child energy that is healing and counteract some of this authoritarian feeling energy. For the next 6 months, we are closing out our time with Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn. And these energies that have amplified authoritarian energy within ourselves and in our cultures. And that means that we're also having to remember that one of the ways that we come back to integrity and we come back to deeper love in our communities and in ourselves is via the joyfulness and the openness that is very childlike. You know, children learn very quickly. They have these really plastic brains that just take in information, and their bodies can take in information, their nerve systems, right? Being open and being playful and being ready to like try and fall down and trip and try again, right? And so there's a joyfulness here in your process that is really wanting to come through first and foremost before we look at any of the maybe heavier hitting energy. Now you also have, you know, next to the sun, you've got this Knight of Swords, which is all about clarity, right? It's all about being able to see and cutting through and cutting forward and moving forward in ways that feel really supportive and clear and crisp for you. And there is kind of this breakthrough happening here. So even with some of this energy that is about the mystery and is about the not knowing, which is something that we all as human beings, I think, have to come to terms with over and over again, the not knowing. These two energies are about the knowing of what's right for you, the knowing of what is calling for you, the seeing and the feeling and the clarity that comes with it. Now, that forward motion does mean also that anywhere where you are feeling like you have to hold yourself back, that you have to replay an old narrative, that you have to be in heartache or you have to do something over and over again, will be under review at this time. And this is part of that growth. This is part of that integrating, you know, where your inner being, your inner self, your deepest self, your authentic integral self has grown beyond all of this and is asking for you to, it's okay to sit with the past pain, but it's also an important time to grow forward. You know, Cancer season for Aries is a complex energy because it's so tender. It's so much about your internal, most personal world. It's not the world that other people see. It's the world that is involved with your closest loved ones and with, you know, your hidden shell, inside your hidden shell. So these are the places where you're tenderest, where people probably don't see these tender sides of yourself in the day-to-day, right? It actually makes me think about a dream I had where I was two people. I was two Sarahs, and one of those Sarahs killed the other Sarah in order to become the next Sarah. And it was really intense. It wasn't like suicide or anything like that. It was this really strong sense of renewal. And this is energy like this. I actually really love Three of Swords because we're willing to sit in the pain without judgment. We often find that it can't hold us captive. Right? It can't define us. It can't hold us captive. In fact, you know, I mean, you look at this Three of Swords, and it's really interesting, the context it comes out in, because you've got your Knight of Swords, you've got your Ten of Pentacles all around this. And, often I find that with growth and with trusting ourselves to step into deeper authenticity with who we are becoming in now, not who we are becoming in January or 2019 or who we thought we were supposed to be in March, who we are now, when we're really coming into that integrity, there's some growing pains, right? Because the part of ourselves that said, oh, you're not allowed to have that, you're not allowed to grow past that, you're not allowed to forgive that, wants to come up and protect us. And so we feel it, right? And that's where, also these top three cards come into play as well. Nine of Wands, the Star, and the Five of Pentacles. Woo! Okay, so this Star here, right? This is an important card. There's a lot coming in this month that I think is going to be saying, it's just time to open up to your brilliance, to your brightness in this world, to what you can offer, to what you can share, to what you can become. It's expanding beyond our comfort zones, right? Star brings us what we want, brings us our wish, with the understanding that that wish is not going to be in our comfort zone. It's not going to be in the familiar. It is going to be in the extraterrestrial, right? It's going to be in this wonderful landscape beyond what we've been able to perceive before now, right? And that means that, once again, that part of ourselves that wants to keep us safe, the authoritarian within us that wants to keep us safe, is going to be really uncomfortable. When we are in our integrity and when we are in our true nature of being loving and giving, and to ourselves and to others and into our life path and what we have to offer in this world, it makes that inner authoritarian, that inner dictator, very uncomfortable. It wants to bring up all the stories of why you don't deserve any of it. It wants to bring in all the stories of why you are cut off, why you could be cut off, what could happen, what could go wrong, why you're not allowed to have it, right? It's a very natural process. So the message that's coming through here with some of these cards, it's like a little bit of a pinch that you feel when you have to trust yourself enough, when you're moving and you're growing in ways that you don't have like a formula yet figured out, right? So you're having to practice deeper trust in yourself, deeper trust in the process than you've probably ever had to before, right? And there is this growth cycle going on here, and it keeps coming back to this message for me of, this is a beautiful month to catch up with yourself, to feel like you can associate with the world that you're in now, how it has changed and it has morphed, and that you can come back into your body. You can come back into your life a little bit more and like slowly and nurturingly do that in order to really see and feel what it is that comes up next for you in this process. And like I said, the next 6 months, there's going to be a little bit of this theme underneath the surface of what kind of control, what kind of self-mastery do we want to have in our lives and in our collective, and what are we ready to transcend? What are we ready to use that child and that mother energy to heal and connect and to build and create? What do we want to create in this world? And that's a big question that's going to be coming up and out of a lot of us. There's been a lot of destruction. There's been a lot of clearing away this year. There's a lot more to do, but there's been a lot of that. And part of this phase coming up here is going to be about what we want to create, what we want to build, what we want that to look like, and what each of us as individuals can let shine forward in that process. And that's huge, right? But it does require that grace within ourselves, and to, know that if you have Three of Swords and you have Nine of Wands and you have Five of Pentacles coming up here to have you sit with some discomfort or some pain, that it's also the doorway, the window, the opening to giving yourself grace and giving it to the rest of the world, and sharing and feeling empowered in what you are doing next in this world. So this is a really powerful time. Ride those waves with gentleness and with kindness. It's it's a powerful, powerful time. You're going to feel a little sensitive this month, my Aries friends. I'll just tell you right now, you might feel really sensitive, and it's okay to feel things. It's important. It's very, very important. And I think that's maybe one of the big lessons that we have for Cancer season. So I'm sending you all so much love. You can find me over on Patreon, where we are doing the deep dive into things like Saturn coming back to Capricorn, what that really means, and getting a little bit more esoteric with all of this information, where I don't have the time to spend describing it here. I would love to see you over on Patreon, and you'll also learn a little bit more about me and my own personal struggles and triumphs and all of that, if you're looking for something soothing to do and connect with during this powerful time. You can also find PinkLune's Etsy shop below as well, and you can find me on my website and on my Instagram at Sarah Verba on both of those places. So I will see you all the information's in the description box. I'll see you all soon for the next Moon Magic and for our readings ahead. I love you all so much. Take such good care of yourselves. You're doing great. You're doing great. And it's an important time to just show up for yourself and show up for this world and be here in the bravery and the grit that you have. I love you so much. Talk to you soon.